Is it working okay? Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Christopher Egan. I'm really pleased to be here. I would like to apologize on behalf of my stomach because it's rumbling due to anxiety and my mic is here. So if you can hear my stomach louder than me, you might prefer that, I don't know. Anyway, a little bit about me. My greatest passion is storytelling. I'm a huge fan of the power of words. I'm a poet, I'm a playwright, and I'm a recently published author. I was recently longlisted for the Bridport Prize for Memoir of the Year, and that's a book I'm still working on. And this year I was recognised by the Sound Delivery Media Network as a lived experience leader, and I was welcomed on their 2025 cohort for their amazing spokesperson course. All of that happened in the last 4 years. Despite what I've just said, I am really not that confident, and I really find it difficult to champion myself. I am neurodiverse, and I have diagnosed conditions of PTSD, a major depressive disorder. I may stumble and stutter while I'm delivering this speech. That doesn't mean to say I'm lost or I need anyone to help me. I'm fine. It's just my brain sometimes needs to just calm itself down. I'm a person who has overcome addiction to both cocaine and methamphetamines, and I'm a former inmate. I'm a survivor of rape in childhood and a survivor of domestic abuse and rape in adulthood. What I say today may affect you. Please reach out. I'm going to be around all day. I'd love to speak to you. Also, my email is going to be up on the screen at the end. Feel free to take a snapshot of it and reach out, even if it's just to say hello. You may have strong reactions to what I say today. I don't mean to hurt anyone with my words, but strong reactions are the point. I want you to feel something. Emotion has the power to drive change. When people feel emotion about something, they're more likely to talk about it. When people talk about things, changes get made. Next. This is my favorite photo ever taken. This is a Ibiza 1982, and that's me on the left. I'm 12 years old, and that little annoying thing behind me with his fist in his mouth is my brother, Tim, who is 18 months old. And that is the last photograph I own of before the event that changed my life forever. That was August 1982. In March 1983, I was in my bedroom. It was the middle of the night. I was fast asleep, and I woke up. And I could hear breathing at the other side of the room, and then I saw movement coming towards me. My face was pushed into my pillow. I couldn't breathe. A light was turned on. I saw a knife on a shelf by my bed. I don't know how long it was before I heard my bedroom door close, and I was alone again, and I was sitting on the edge of my bed, and there was a window in my bedroom, and I was looking through it. The curtains were drawn, and there was slightly ajar, and through the gap I could see the moon, and in front of the moon there was branches dancing in the wind, and my eyes fixed on those branches as they danced until the sun came up and the moon disappeared. I looked around my room and I saw my pajamas on the floor in the center of the room, and that's the first time I realized I was naked, and that's the first time I really realized what happened to me. And I didn't have the words. I was 13 years old. But a distant relative used to come and stay with us every Easter. He used to come because he lived in Kenya. He built orphanages for the Catholic Church. He was very well respected, and he'd come and stay with us for 4, 5, 6 weeks every year. And that was the year he decided he wanted to rape me. Went on for 4 years, 13, age 14, 15, age 16. And when I was age 17, I don't know what made me do it, but I took a kitchen knife and I put it to his throat, and I told him I would stuff him through the neck and kill him if he touched me again. The next day he fled back to Kenya, and he wasn't around. For the next 4 years, I felt really safe from him. I didn't feel safe, but I felt safe from him. Then when I was 22, I heard he'd returned to the UK. I disclosed to my mum and dad what had happened because that little mischievous sod, I'll call him, behind me, my brother, was 10 years old at that time, and I had to protect him. And when I told mum and dad, they died in front of my eyes. I tried to source support, but there was no support. That was shocking. In England, there was no support. And I was left treading water. I made trauma-driven decision after trauma-driven decision for the next 10 years until I found myself living in Thailand, addicted to meth, having spent 5 or 6 years in a relationship with someone who used to beat the living crap out of me on a daily basis and used my trauma that I'd disclosed to him and weaponized it against me. And because I was vulnerable and because I felt I was undeserving of anything but hatred and pain and hurt because of what had happened to me in my adolescence, I stayed. In February 2004, I was arrested in northern Thailand during a drugs raid. In March 2004, 3 weeks later, I was arrested I was 3 weeks into rural Whole Turkey. And I was waiting at the Vatican in Chiang Mai Central Men's Prison. And I was waiting for my father to arrive, and I'd never spoken to my father in months, and I didn't know how he would react. I didn't know what he would say. There was a man standing near me, and he was eating, and he started to struggle and splutter and cough. He grabbed his throat, he fell forward, he tried to get his balance, he hit the ground, he turned purple, and he died. People ran to him, and they checked for a pulse, and then they shook their heads, and then my name was called out to go into the visit room, and I had to climb over his body and walk inside, and I sat down, and there was a wall in front of me that was cement up to like halfway, iron bars and a perspex screen. And there was a little grill that I could speak through, and my father entered and sat on the other side, and I looked in his face and I searched it, and what I found was kindness and compassion. And when he looked at me, what he found was distress, and he didn't introduce himself, he didn't do anything, like you'd expect. Please tell me what's happened. And all I could say to him was, nothing, Dad, because I had to choose kindness over compassion, over self-preservation. I wanted to offload everything and take it back with him to the UK and leave me safe from it all. But I just said, nothing, Dad. Boredom is the only danger in here. Thanks. During the visit, sorry, back.
Yeah, sorry. During the visit, that photo, it is my favorite photo. This photo is a photo of safety.
It is the safest I've felt in 21 years, and yet I'm in one of the most dangerous places in the world, a Thai prison in northern Thailand. But I felt safe from everything that was on the outside that had hurt me. It was also achievement and success. To not have died on the many occasions I could have leading up to that point was huge. I spent an amazing 2 hours with my dad. And then the guard came over and he said, you need to go. And I stood up and I lost it and I slammed my fist on the perspex screen and I just screamed at him, please don't forget about me, Dad, please don't forget about me. 10 days later, the first letter arrived. It was a postcard from France, and it said, you don't know me and I don't know you. I saw your father's message online asking people to write to you so you don't feel forgotten. I promise you, I won't forget about you. Love from a mother. The next day, the next letter arrived, and then the next letter, some days 10 letters, some days 20 letters, and soon I had hundreds and hundreds of letters from people all over the world, from places I'd never seen and people I'd never met. And then came the visits. There was backpackers on holiday, there was retirees on holiday, there was expats who lived far away and expats who lived around the corner, and they all brought conversation and warmth and joy and happiness and smiles in that space. And they brought the outside world in, and the other thing they brought in was the luxury of me never feeling forgotten. 2 weeks after that visit, I was sentenced. I went into a courtroom. I had my legs in iron leg chains, and I had to hold them up with a chain. And I had never felt such humiliation since the last time I was raped. 2.5 years later, I achieved an early release, and I was free of the incarceration and free of meth. I've not taken meth for, 21 years. Next one. This is my beautiful dad. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but he couldn't rescue me from the abuse I'd had as a child. Didn't know about it. He couldn't rescue me from any of the trauma related to that, but he could rescue me from the stigma and the shame and the isolation and the loneliness of being in prison thousands of miles away from home. And he just asked the world to do one thing, which was to write to me and make sure I didn't feel forgotten, and the world answered. I ended up with more than 1,000 letters, which I've still got. My mom's beautiful too. She might see this because this is being filmed, and I would hate her not to be mentioned because she'll never let me hear it down. She wrote to me every week. She wrote me one letter that was 4 A4 sides, detailing, unfortunately, her irritable bowel syndrome. She also sent me a box of Christmas items, tinsel, and a singing and dancing Santa Claus, which aren't really that useful in a Thai prison. And but she also gave me a card, which I opened and glitter spat out all over me. And I can't get rid of glitter. Glitter is like the devil's dust. I hate it. And no matter how hard I tried to get rid of it, it was still on my face months later. And I don't know if you're familiar with male prisons, but walking around in a male prison with glitter on your face is sending the wrong message. I'm a gay man. Normally I would do, but no. Wrong place, wrong time. 2017 came and I had a breakdown. It was a real breakdown by the road. Yeah, okay. And I then, then I started to cry, and they were like, "What's wrong?" And then they realized I couldn't tell them what was wrong, and they took me home, and I found in work, and I didn't work for 5 years. I lived in a flat that became like the hoarder next door. I was desperately unwell. I phoned We Are Survivors. What they gave me was 6 years of the most incredible, groundbreaking, holistic wraparound support. They rebuilt me. I'm going to rephrase that. They allowed me, or gave me the tools to rebuild myself. They supplied me with an independent sexual violence advisor. I went into a safe house. I reported what had happened to me to the police. The perpetrator was dead, but that did not matter. It was great to be able to get his name on a document and not be silent. I attended peer support groups. I attended therapy. I was on their lived experience panel. And then another thing I did was the writing room, which was a creative space. And that's where I started to write. And I impressed someone who was there, who then asked me to do an audio drama. They then asked me to supply a short story, which I did, which then got published in, next slide, please. This anthology, that's me in a bookshop. That yellow book in the middle is The Killing of Demons and Darlings. Next slide, please. And my story inside it is The Monster Under the Bed, which is one of my greatest achievements because it puts on the page a wish I had as a child that would never come true, and now has, because it's there and I can read it every day. The other thing that We Are Survivors did at the end of those 6 years of support is they gave me a job, and I'm now their lived experience lead and community development coordinator. The recent Office of National Statistics data from 2025, March 2025. It brings out a lot of data that people don't realize. It's really shocking. This is recorded data. This is people who've reported to police and then been recorded. So this is the minimum number of people. This is not the actual number of people, because most people don't report. So that states, when you break down the statistics, that currently in the UK, boys aged between the ages of 10 and 14, 28 boys every single day are sexually abused. That's not 28 of the same boys. That's 28 different boys every single day. That is the equivalent of a whole classroom of boys every day who are being abused. Next slide. Every day, classroom is abused, and I want to ask, what could we all do to change that? I wanted to ask, what could I do to change that? What conversations could we have to change that? What can people in everyday life to change that? Because I'm sure every single person here does not want their son or their nephew or their grandson or their friend's son or any son to be sat in that classroom of 28 boys. I believe Loud Voices can help. So I am starting this project called Loud Voices. The hope is it goes national. With the help of the CEO of We Are Survivors. I've signed up 15 of the survivors who use our service. The whole point of Loud Voices is that survivors can own their own narratives. They can go out and they can say their truth loud and proud, without the stigma, without the shame, without the guilt. They can educate, they can inspire, they can create those conversations that people will then go away from there and they will talk about it. They won't shy away from it. It's also good for their recovery. It can be cathartic. And when I say their story loud and proud, I don't mean necessarily like this. I mean in a way that is good for them, whether that's recording their voice and, publishing that, or whether that's someone else saying their words, or whether that's putting it in a book anonymously, whether that's in poetry form, song format, however that may be, whatever is good for them to do. Next slide. So, I'm not going to end on. So I've decided that my brother does not get to be on the end. So this was a photo we created, which was the start before the abuse, and this was 3 weeks ago. He's there behind me with his fist in his mouth again. He's still annoying, and he's sat over there. I'm not really going to point to him, but he is here with me today. I had to wait. How long have I got? Because I'm. Okay. So. Don't worry. I'm not necessarily about all that. I spent 35 years without support. And the way you describe that is literally like you're swimming in an ocean of sharks, trying not to get bitten, and always swimming in the wrong direction and getting bitten. But there's no one there to heal that bite. And the more you get bitten, the more pain you're in. But you can't really deal with the pain in the here and now because your head is filled with noise. And trauma does that. It becomes this huge thing that you can't really say to anyone and that you're scared of talking about. And the more you don't talk about it, the harder it becomes. And I think the fact that I had to wait 35 years in the United Kingdom, a so-called Western developed country, to get support is a disgrace. I tried to get support. I was either in the wrong postcode or the support I went to just wasn't geared up to give the right support. And that is shocking. Everything I said at the start, all the stuff about my achievements and everything, which is hard for me to say out loud, that was all done after the support. After the support started. That is a testament to what good support can do. I'm still recovering. I don't think you ever recover from some traumas. You're always in recovery, but I can walk around and it can be chained to me rather than me being chained to it. I'm going to show you some photographs now, which are the last photo I showed you before it all started, while I wasn't really smiling on it. At that period of my life, I still smiled on photographs. And what I stopped doing immediately once I was first raped was stop smiling on photographs. And for a decade, I could not smile on photograph. And I hope that most of these photos, if I put them right, shows me smiling. They're all photos of me not smiling. It's going to be a disaster, this. But we've got a montage. It goes a little bit slower than I meant it to do because I changed the settings. So these are the last 4 years of my life. These are pictures of me smiling. They're pictures of me at festivals. They're pictures of me with friends. That's my mum. That's me in Switzerland. They're pictures of me traveling. They're pictures of me enjoying life. They're pictures of me doing things I never thought possible, which was to feel joy, to feel alive, to feel loved, to feel love for myself, to feel, just to feel. I think. That's me with the Northern Lights. That's me at the Northern Cape. That's me not smiling really. I'm with a lot of pretty girls, but like I said, I'm gay, so it's not that I'm just really, popular with the women. Yeah, that's me and my best mate. That's me and that's the Mona Lisa. I got 20 minutes with the Mona Lisa just with me by a fluke. And the last two pictures, without being a stereotypical gay man, are of my two favorite women in the world. So that's the Mona Lisa behind me. And that's my mother peeking out. She's always peeking somewhere. I won't say which order they're my favorite women, but they are. But the other thing that these show is the one thing I never thought was possible and one thing I feel every single day, and that's happiness. And I can truly say I'm happy now. So please, thank you very much for having me.